Oh, Lenny, what a lovable special needs person. Oh, would you look at the time? It's October! That's right, boys and girls, it's spooky season, and what better time to sit down and watch a few horror movies? What movies have you been watching this year? Let me know below in the comments. Tell me, I'm very interested. I've watched the classics and whatnot, but I wanted to take this time to talk about a series that is very near and dear to my heart. The Chucky franchise. Chucky, everyone's favorite foul-mouthed killer doll. Created in the 80s by a college student named Don Mancini. Mancini was inspired by the rampant consumerism of the 80s, specifically the Cabbage Patch Kid riots of '83. That's right, you heard that correctly. Cabbage Patch Kid riots. People were killing each other over these ugly-ass things. Now, these movies are very special to me, alright? Child's Play 2 was the first horror movie I remember watching. I have a very vivid memory of being like 2 or 3 years old and going into the living room while my dad was watching a movie about a toy coming to life. And I sat down and started watching it because I thought, oh, a toy coming to life. It's just like Toy Story. Oh, how wrong I was. I stuck around just long enough for Chucky to get scary, and goddamn was I traumatized. I had nightmares for weeks. I never looked at dolls the same. As a matter of fact, my mom had this really weird, like, porcelain doll that sat in the corner of our living room, and I wouldn't go near that fucking thing. That thing was terrifying. Anyways, I ended up growing up and watching the movies on my own at around 13, and I fell in love with them. For me at that time, they were like the perfect amount of scary. Listen, I was kind of a pussy at that age. I'd get scared watching the History Channel, alright? But Chucky was great. It was the first horror franchise that I ever really got obsessed with. I watched the movies, I watched the special features, I read articles, anything to do with Chucky, I self-indulged in. I loved it, man, but then like most people do, I grew up. I went on to watch better movies, scarier movies. And I haven't seen these movies in a very long time, but I thought, what better time than October to break out the old DVDs and give them a rewatch? That's right, I still have the DVDs from when I first watched them as a 13-year-old. What are you gonna do about it? Fight me? It's time to sit down and watch every Chucky movie ever. Except for the 2019 remake. If you want my opinion on that, it's fine. It's okay. It's alright. But other than that, every Chucky movie ever. So why waste any more time? Let's get right into it. Are these movies as good as I remember? Which one will be my favorite? Will I even have a favorite? Will I survive? Well, you're just gonna have to stick around to find out. And what better way to start off our little escapade, if that's the proper word, than with the original Child's Play.
And there's nothing innocent about Child's Play.
Child's Play, the movie that started it all. Released in 1988 and directed by Tom Holland. No, not that Tom Holland. We're not talking Spider-Man, we're talking the director of Fright Night. This movie had a budget of $9 million and made $44.2 million at the box office. That's a nice little profit if you ask me. I wouldn't sneeze at it. The synopsis goes as follows. Nobody believes 6-year-old Andy Barkley when he says that Chucky, his new birthday doll, is alive. And when Andy's babysitter is violently pushed out the window to her death, the boy tells his mother and the detectives the simple truth. Chucky did it. In this clever, playful thriller, voodoo and terror meet when an innocent-looking doll is inhabited by the soul of a killer who wasn't ready to die. Only young Andy realizes that Chucky, who promises to be his friend to the end, is responsible for the ensuing rampage of gruesome murders. But the real terror takes hold when the deranged doll becomes determined to transfer his evil spirit into a living human being. Alright, this movie actually rocks. I mean, where do I start? How about with Brad Dourif, right? I know he's in every film, so you're gonna be hearing a lot of, whoa, this guy's actually pretty good. But it's the truth. His voice just brings Chucky to life in a way that I can't imagine anyone else doing.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Hi, Mikey! It hurt like a son of a bitch, it even bled.
It's the first movie, so the Chucky character isn't completely defined quite yet, but Brad Dourif takes what he has to work with and he absolutely shines with it. Thank God he's in this franchise, because he's going to be a saving grace of a few of the later entries. Now let's talk about our main antagonist, little Andy Barkley, played amazingly by the young Alex Vincent. I know that most child actors suck, it's just the way it is. Kids are bad at most things. Hell, when I was this kid's age, I could barely barely wipe my own ass. The fact that this kid is this good in this movie should honestly be a crime. The way he stutters and stumbles his way through sentences is just so realistic. I mean, if you've ever listened to a kid talk for more than 5 minutes, then you quickly realize that they don't really know what's going on in there. And there's this scene in like a mental institution, and he's trying to convince the doctors that Chucky's coming to kill him, and he just breaks down crying, and dude, honestly, it tugs on my heartstrings a little bit. And on to his mother, Karen, who's played by Catherine Hicks, and again, I love her. You can really believe her character and especially believe the relationship between her and Andy. It's like you're watching a real single mother keeping up with her cantankerous child. There's a helicopter flying over my house. They're coming to stop me. Don't let them take me away. You see her struggle to provide her son with the one thing that he wants for his birthday, and it just feels so legit, man. As a single mother myself, I love this character. And the cop, Detective Mike Norris, he's the rock of the film, all right? And not like Dwayne, like an actual, like a rock. Like a rock. He is a stoic character who's forced to confront the terrifying realities of this world. A man who has almost seen everything that a police officer could possibly see. But unfortunately, he is a cop, so ACAB. No, seriously, Mike Norris rocks. Every single character in this movie rocks. And the setting in this movie is really cool as well. I mean, it's a winter in Chicago. How much scarier could you get? As a man from the Midwest, let me tell you, winters here suck. I would almost rather take my chance with a killer doll over a Chicago winter, especially in the 80s before global warming started heating things up. Now let's talk about the kills, because why would you watch a horror movie if not for the kills? And the kills in this movie are fine, I guess. I think I've been a bit spoiled by modern horror films. It's kind of hard to watch something like Terrifier or Evil Dead Rise and then come back to this, you know? It's like comparing Bud Light to Mormonism. Those two things just don't work, but I'll do my best. So Chucky's first kill is Andy's babysitter, Aunt Maggie, and it's pretty stupid, I'm not gonna lie. She gets hit with a toy hammer in the forehead and she just like, whoa, falls out of the window and then crashes to the street. It's really stupid. One thwap to the face and now she's permanently embedded into a car. I mean, that sucks. Chucky kills one of his former accomplices by turning the gas on in his house and blowing it up, and it's fine. The explosion's cool, I guess, but one, it's a character that we see for like 4 minutes in the movie, and two, an explosion's just kind of a boring way to go in a horror movie, in my opinion. Chucky kills the man who taught him the spell by stabbing him with his own voodoo doll, but not before saying some of the most out-of-pocket shit I've ever heard.
Well, John, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I have a date with a 6-year-old boy.
Whoa, Chuckster, that's a little creepy, don't you think? What are you, a Minecraft YouTuber? Then Chucky kills Andy's doctor at the psych ward by electrocuting him with like a shock therapy headset, and whoa, doc, what is that, blackface? That's not cool. Like I said, kills, not that great, but it is the first movie and it came out in 1988, and I'm looking at it through the lens of a man in 2024. Plus, this movie isn't necessarily about the kills, it's about the atmosphere. Like, there's this scene where Chucky's hiding underneath a couch and Karen's like reaching down to grab him, and it's so tense, it's so well shot. I've seen this movie a million times and I'm still sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for that little f***er to jump out. I mean, the tension is so thick that I thought I saw it twerking on Instagram the other day. It's amazing. Also, the doll, man. For the time, the animatronics in this movie are awesome. I know it looks cheap, but it kind of adds to the charm, in my opinion. Like, if a doll really came to life, it wouldn't be moving all articulate and smooth like a human. It would move like Michael J. Fox after a bad case of food poisoning. And on that note, in a few of the scenes, Chucky is portrayed by a little person in a costume, and I don't like it. I know what you're thinking. Well, Johnny, little people have to work too. Well, maybe they should grow up and get a big boy job. No, but for real, I do think it takes you out of the movie a little bit, because one scene, Chucky's moving all stiff like an animatronic, and then the next scene, he's moving like a normal person. Well, maybe not a normal person, but you know what I mean. Oh, and another cool thing they do. So as the movie goes on, the Chucky doll starts to like age and turn more human. Like when the movie starts, he's looking all plasticky and shit, but by the end, he's got a receding hairline and sunken in eyes. It just looks so cool. It goes from looking like a Cabbage Patch Kid doll to Steve Buscemi. It's a really neat effect, and I think it's the only time they do it in the series, which really sucks. It probably wasn't in the budget. Now, a huge negative in my opinion, too many fake out deaths at the very end. I mean, it's like a joke, man. They burn Chucky and they think he's dead, but surprise, he's alive. Then they shoot him and they think he's dead, but surprise, he's alive. Like, I know the fake out death is a horror movie trope since the beginning of time, but this one takes it to the extreme. Overall though, I think this movie rocks. It's such a good standalone horror film. If you don't want to worry about any of the sequels, just watch this one. It's so nice and self-contained. I love it, man. I haven't rewatched this one as many times as the other ones because it's kind of a slow burn, and as an autistic child that didn't really work for me, but now as an adult I love that slow burn atmosphere. It's great. This movie is really fun, and since it's our only one so far, then it's going right at the top at number 1. Just a nice little placeholder. It may not stay there forever, so stick around to find out where it ends up at the end. And now, let's get on to the aptly named sequel, Child's Play 2.
Did you miss me, Andy? I sure missed you.
Child's Play 2. Keep an eye out for it.
Alright, Child's Play 2, the much anticipated sequel to the horror film that took the world by storm. Released in 1990 and directed by John LaFia, the co-writer from the first movie. This film had a budget of $13 million and made $35.8 million at the box office. A little drop in a profit, but it's a nice little chunk of change. And now here is the synopsis for Child's Play 2. Sorry, Jack, Chucky's back. The notorious killer doll with the satanic smile comes back to life in this new chapter depicting the terrifying struggle between young Andy Barkley and the demonic doll attempting to possess his soul. Despite being roasted to a crisp in his last escapade, Chucky rises from the ashes after being reconstructed by a toy factory to dispel the negative publicity surrounding the doll. Back in one piece, Chucky tracks his prey to a foster home where the chase begins again in this fiendishly clever sequel to the enormously popular original. Now this is one of the best sequels I've ever seen. I mean, it takes everything from the original movie and it just does it again, but better. I mean, why try to fix something that's not broken, you know? It really feels like Evil Dead 2 or Aliens. It's so similar to the first one that you almost don't have to see the original to enjoy this one. A major plus to this film is that Chucky gets right to it. I think in the original movie, it's like 50 minutes before we see Chucky move for the first time, and don't get me wrong, that's great. It really works for the atmosphere building of the original, but this movie, it's literally like 15 minutes in. It cuts right to the chase. We know the lore, we know the story. Just show me the silly doll that says the F word. And with that being said, here's my first big negative. Andy's mom is just gone. The movie tells us that she's been sent to a mental asylum because no one believes her story, but well, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, there were 3 other witnesses in the first movie to corroborate her story, 2 of them being police officers. You're telling me they just left my girl out to dry? And second of all, if she is going to an asylum, show us that, please. I know you'd be hiring an actress for like a 5-minute shoot, but still, I think it would add a lot more emotion to this film. It just feels so disconnected from the first movie. I mean, this doesn't really feel like the same Andy Barkley without his mom. And by the way, Andy is just as good in this one as he is in the original. I mean, seriously, for a child actor, this kid is stellar. He even smokes a couple of ciggies in the movie. Kids, if you're watching this, start smoking. Go grab your daddy's cigarettes off the counter. Yep, light them. You gotta inhale hard, hold it in deep, hold it for as long as you can. Now you're smoking. So Andy's in foster care, and the foster family is interesting. I just don't know how I feel about it. Kyle, the fellow foster kid, is pretty cool. She's just your typical 90s teenage girl that doesn't get along with authority. But the mom and dad are just, I don't know, they're just kind of there. They don't have any real personalities. They have no real characteristics other than, oh, we're a rich white couple who like fostering the troubled youth. I'm the wife and I like sewing. I'm the husband and I work in an office. They're just people. They don't have any real substance. Compare that to Karen from the first movie. I mean, you know everything about her within the first 5 minutes of her being on screen. She's a poor, overworked, underpaid single mother who's trying to do whatever she can to make her son's life as happy as possible. We get that all just by looking at her, listening to her talk. We don't get that here. These are just people for Chucky to kill. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with that. I just wish that there was more of a connection. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm doing with my hand. With that being said, they do live in a giant house, which has to be like a mansion compared to the shitty little Chicago apartment that Andy was used to. Wow, can mommy stay in the asylum forever? The Chucky doll is more fleshed out and moves a lot better. I mean, some of these shots are really well done. You can actually see the doll do stuff. And if I remember correctly, I don't remember seeing any little people in this movie that play Chucky, and I'm sorry, but I kind of like that a little bit better. I'm sorry to the little people community. Don't get mad at me. Take it up with the big man upstairs. Is he big to you? He's probably really big to you guys. And on to the kills, which are quite a bit better than the first movie. An engineer at the Play Pals factory gets electrocuted in the beginning, and that's what brings Chucky back to life. You could say it's the power of power. One of the executives from the factory gets suffocated by a plastic bag, and I just gotta say, that's probably a pretty tough way to go. I mean, I hope there wasn't food in that bag. Could you imagine dying and all you could smell are onions? Ugh. Chucky stabs Andy's teacher with like an air pump and then beats her to death with a ruler or a yardstick, one of those long rulers. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to school. It's all right. It's cool. She's a little over dramatic. Most of it happens off screen. It's whatever. The foster dad gets tripped by Chucky and breaks his neck. The foster mom gets her throat slit off screen. The owner of the foster care center just gets stabbed, which is pretty boring. But the woman who runs the foster care center is played by Sarah Palmer from Twin Peaks. I just had to say that or I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Probably the best kill in this movie is like right at the very end. So there's like a maintenance man who gets his throat cut by Chucky and he falls backwards onto a conveyor belt, and then this machine like puts these little plastic eyes in his eye socket. It's pretty cool and pretty brutal. It does feel a little tacked on there. It's a little out of nowhere. It's like they were writing the film and they go, oh my god, we've only got 10 minutes left. We need to kill someone else. Quick, get Jerry in there. Speaking of the ending, the final chase scene in this movie is absolutely stellar. It's in the Play Pals factory and there's just a bunch of machinery and good guy dolls stacked up. It's awesome. One complaint though is that the boxes of good guy dolls are kind of set up in a maze formation, and that doesn't make sense at all. It's kind of counterintuitive if you ask me. I've worked in a factory before and everything has a place and every place has a thing. And also, they do the same thing as the first movie. Too many fake out deaths. I'm serious, it's like 3 in a row. It's too much, man. Just let the f***er die. However, Chucky's final death in this movie is pretty cool. So Andy pours like molten plastic all over him, which melts him, and then they stick an air hose in his mouth and he explodes, and that's cool, man. That's just cool. I mean, this movie is an absolute gem. It cuts right to the chase. I love it. You get everything you want out of a Chucky movie. You even get Chucky saying some pretty based opinions.
You goddamn women drivers!
Child's Play 2 takes the top spot now. Child's Play 2 at number 1 and Child's Play 1 moving down at number 2. Don't let that confuse you too much, alright? Now, let's get on to the next film in the franchise, Child's Play 3.
Child's Play 3. Look who's stalking.
A haircut ain't regulation, soldier.
Regulate this!
Oh my god, I'm 3 movies in and I'm losing steam very quickly. Child's Play 3, released in 1991 and directed by Jack Bender. Not Bender the robot, not Bender from The Breakfast Club, Jack Bender. Also Jack Bender, the man who directed the Hodor episode from Game of Thrones. You know, the one where Hodor! Hold the door! That one? This movie was made with a $13 million budget and grossed a measly $20.5 million at the box office. This franchise is losing steam very quickly, and I think you're gonna see why real soon. But first, the synopsis. 8 years after seemingly destroying the killer doll, Andy Barkley turns 16 and is placed in a military school. Meanwhile, the greedy president of Play Pals Toy Company decides to resurrect the popular Good Guys doll line, confident that the bad publicity is forgotten. Publicity? As the assembly line recreates the first doll from a mess of melted plastic, the spirit of Chucky returns to renew his quest and seek revenge on Andy. Once again, it's up to Andy to stop the unrelenting killer in this fast-paced, frightening thriller. I'm cutting right to the chase on this one. This movie is boring. It's not the worst thing in the world. I would almost prefer it to be the worst thing in the world, because then it would be in that kind of like so bad it's good territory. This just, God, it's so boring. To give this movie the benefit of the doubt, it came out just 9 months after Child's Play 2. How insane is that? I mean, this movie is the definition of rushed. Apparently, Universal Pictures had Don Mancini write the script to the movie before Child's Play 2 even came out. Were these movies really making that much money for Universal at the time? What gives? So even though this movie came out just 9 months after the last one, it actually takes place 8 years after Child's Play 2. Andy's an older teenager, and now he's enrolled in military school, and right here is my first complaint. This setting sucks. There are a billion military movies out there, and if I wanted to watch one, it sure as hell wouldn't be this one. This school is just so bland. I mean, compare that to the wintry streets of Chicago or the unfamiliar atmosphere of a new foster home. I mean, this school just sucks. Now the characters. We catch up with a 16-year-old Andy Barkley being played by Justin Whalen, and no offense to Justin here, but he is no Alex Vincent. He just doesn't hold any weight to his emotions. I mean, theoretically, this is a kid who has gone through a very, very traumatic childhood. And he's just like normal. He looks normal, he talks normal, everything about this kid is too normal. I want this fucker pulling his hair out and scribbling shit all over the walls. I mean, this guy is he's just there. He's just okay. The other students at the school are all just stereotypes. There's the cute tough girl that doesn't need no help. There's the nerd, there's the bully, and oh yeah, and there's Tyler. Who could possibly forget about Tyler? Who's Tyler? Oh, well, it's the boy who Chucky is planning on putting his soul in, instead of Andy Barkley this time. I don't know why. Is it because he's black? I don't know. Quick question for you. If Chucky puts his white soul into a black person's body, can he say the N-word? Wish this movie would have made that a little bit more clearer for us. Debate below. Tyler sucks. I'm sorry. I know this kid is a child actor, and you can't fault him for his performance, but God, is this character just so stupid. Like, Chucky openly tells this kid that I'm gonna possess you, I'm gonna kill you and steal your body, and he's just like, haha, Chucky, you're so silly. I mean, the only time that he, like, kind of thinks that Chucky is evil is when he says fuck. Like, when Chucky cusses, Tyler's like, oh, Chucky, why would you say that? But no, it's not the murder and the soul stealing. Oh my God, there's this one scene where Andy's trying to tell Tyler, like, hey man, you really need to be careful about Chucky. And Tyler's like, oh, well, you're just jealous because Chucky's my best friend and not yours. And oh my God, it's just, this kid's so unbearable. I really hate the choice to make this movie 8 years in the future. Like, imagine this, okay? Instead of this mess, we keep Alex Vincent and we set it right after the last movie. So Karen is in the insane asylum, right? And she heard that Chucky's back and he attacked Andy Barkley at the foster care center. So Karen breaks out of the mental asylum, tracks Andy down and rescues him, and they run away from Chucky together. Think of like T2 style, all right? And it ends with a final standoff where Chucky dies and Andy and Karen can move on together and live their life. You can include Kyle and Detective Mike and all these elements from the previous 2 movies and tie them all together. I mean, that took me literally 5 seconds to think of right there, off the top of my dome. But instead, you just have 3 movies that feel like they have nothing to do with each other, except for the fact that there's a killer doll named Chucky. All right, now on to the deaths. Chucky chokes the CEO with a yo-yo, and it's all right, I guess, except Chucky says like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
Oh my God.
I mean, this literally had to be like the first draft of the script, right? I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt? Fuck! I have to give this film the benefit of the doubt. I have to give this film the benefit of the doubt because it was made so quickly after the last one, but come on. Somebody wrote that and was like, that's cool. A garbage man gets squished, the weird sexual barber gets his throat slit, the nerd jumps on a bomb. I mean, they're all just so stupid. There are 2 interesting deaths, however. Chucky goes to kill the Colonel. It is the Colonel, right? Yeah, the Colonel. He goes to kill the Colonel, but right as he's about to jump out and stab him, the Colonel has a heart attack and dies on his own. And I'm willing to admit that's pretty funny. I like that. If only it was in a better movie. So at the end of the movie, the school has this thing they call war games, and it's like capture the flag, but with like paint guns. But they're not using paint guns, they're using real guns with paint ammunition. And that just feels like it shouldn't be possible. Why should it not be possible? Well, because Chucky trades the paint ammunition for live rounds. And the whole time you're sitting there, you're excited. You're like, oh my God, something's actually gonna happen in this movie. This is gonna be a f***ing bloodbath. You know what happens? One person gets shot, and it was the bully. The bully that you're waiting to die the whole movie, the character that is only there to die in a satisfying way, just gets shot through the heart. Like any other movie. Imagine if these guys just started unloading on each other. They're laughing, they're hollering, they're smiling. They don't understand that they're killing each other. I mean, it should have been way better than what it was, but nope. Just one kid gets shot. One kid gets shot and everyone goes, well, hold on, these are live rounds. This piece of shit is going at the bottom. It's boring, which in my opinion is worse than bad. It might not be down here forever, but I've got a feeling that he's gonna be making a nice little home down there. And now, on to Bride of Chucky.
He's got a playmate of his own. Bride of Chucky.
What wedding?
After a much-needed 7-year hiatus, the franchise was revitalized with Bride of Chucky. Inspired by meta-slashers of the 90s like Scream, it was released in 1998 and directed by Ronnie Yu, the same man who directed Freddy vs. Jason, a personal favorite of mine. That movie sucks. It had a $25 million budget and made $50 million at the box office. That's right, we're back in the driver's seat, baby. Big bucks. Chucky is reborn when his old flame, Tiffany, rescues his battered doll parts from a police impound. But Chucky wants his new playmate cut down to size, so he transforms his blushing bride into a stunning little horror. Chucky and Tiffany can't wait to start their homicidal honeymoon by hitching a ride with unsuspecting newlyweds Jesse and Jade. This October, Chucky gets lucky. Don't like that. Where to start on Bride of Chucky? Well, no more Andy Barclay, which in my opinion is a good thing. It's kind of a breath of fresh air. After the third movie, I just don't care about Andy Barclay anymore. You had a good thing and you lost me. You had a good thing and you lost me. Not only is Andy Barclay no longer here, but this is the first film that leans into the comedic elements of Chucky. I mean, this movie really is just an amalgamation of references. References to previous Chucky movies, references to other horror franchises. It's just a nice little wrapped gift to all horror fans. We even get a sex scene with Chucky and his new wife, and I'm not gonna lie, it's got one of the funniest lines of the whole series.
Wait, what?
Have you got a rubber?
Have I got a rubber?
Yeah.
Tiff,
What?
look at me. I'm all rubber.
This movie sees the debut of a new character, Tiffany, played expertly by Jennifer Tilly, and oh my God, 1998 Jennifer Tilly is so fucking hot. She's just some trailer trash blonde in this movie, and Tiffany was Chucky's girlfriend before he was killed by the police in the first Child's Play movie, and I'm not a big fan of that element. You're telling me that Charles Lee Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler, has a hot blonde girlfriend? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. But I give this one a pass, cause Jennifer Tilly. The film is chopped full of new characters, including Jesse and Jade, a young couple who are madly in love, but forbidden from being together by Jade's overprotective cop uncle, Chief Warren Kincaid, played by John Ritter. Rest in peace, John Ritter. Jesse and Jade get duped into driving Chucky and Tiffany up to New Jersey where Chucky's human body is buried. They need to get to Chucky's body because Chucky was buried with an amulet called the Heart of Dumbala, an amulet that they need to transfer their souls out of the dolls. And again, new lore. I know that Don Mancini couldn't have ever imagined what this franchise would turn into when he was writing the original script as a college student in the 80s, but I just wish they would have had this shit ironed out by now. I mean, suddenly you need some fancy amulet to transfer your soul. You didn't need that in the first 3 movies. Just hard work and determination. Chucky and Tiffany go on a cross-country killing spree that eventually gets blamed on Jesse and Jade, and there's a really funny beat in this movie that I don't think was intentional. So Jesse thinks that Jade is killing everyone, and Jade thinks that Jesse is killing everyone. So they're both convinced that the other person is a murderer. So what do they decide to do? Well, get married in a drive-thru, obviously. Like, it's so f***ing stupid. Like, they do a Vegas-style wedding. If you are convinced that your partner is a murderer, are you really just gonna be like, okay, well, yeah, I guess I'll be married to you now? No, f*** that. You're making a run for it. Oh, by the way, in the last movie, I didn't bring this up, but Chucky gets, like, obliterated by this giant fan. It's a really good scene in a terrible movie, but he gets chopped into, like, 1,000,000 pieces. So Tiffany finds Chucky's chopped up remains and stitches them back together, and it gives Chucky this, like, really cool scarred look. It's probably my favorite design of Chucky in any of these movies so far. I love the redesign. It just makes Chucky look scary. I mean, now his exterior matches his evil interior. Some of you bitches should take note. So the kills are as follows. An officer in the beginning of the film gets his throat slit by Tiffany. It's a good effect, good moment, good kill. I like it. Tiffany's new boyfriend, Damien, gets suffocated by Chucky, but not before Chucky makes fun of his small penis.
It ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it.
Tiffany is electrocuted by Chucky, who, like, pushes a TV into the bathtub and she dies, and that's how he transfers her soul into the new body. It's alright, it's cool. You get to see Jennifer Tilly in a bath, so A+, am I right, my fellow 80s gooners? 90s gooners, when did this movie come out? Chief Kincaid, Jade's uncle, John Ritter, he gets like a bunch of nails stuck in his face and then stabbed multiple times. That killed Rocks. Another cop gets his car exploded. Fine, explosions. Woo! So this random couple steal Jesse's wallet. So Tiffany follows them to their hotel room and they're sleeping on this waterbed that's got like a glass, like a mirror ceiling, and she throws a wine bottle up and it smashes the mirror, and all the glass shards fall down onto the waterbed. It's a cool effect. I like the kill. Oh, and then David, the gay friend of Jesse and Jade, gets run over by a truck and fucking explodes. He just, like, is obliterated. Like, one moment he's standing there, the next moment he's red mist all over the interstate. It's awesome. It's so fucking stupid, and I love it. So they make it to Charles Lee Ray's grave, but Tiffany suddenly has a change of heart and turns on Chucky, and they get into like a shovel fight, and once again, we get little people in the doll costumes. Not a fan. Chucky gets shot and killed by Jade. Tiffany gets burnt in an oven in an RV. They both die in some pretty cool ways, I guess. So remember, Jesse and Jade are being blamed for Chucky and Tiffany's deaths, all right? They're being blasted all over the TV that they're serial killers. They're a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. So a cop finds Jesse and Jade in the graveyard and just goes, yeah, you guys are innocent. You guys can go ahead. It's just like, that's not how it f***ing works. Oh, and at the end, Tiffany pushes a little demon baby out of her puppet pussy, and it's a teaser for the next film. What it is? There's a little demon in her puppet, because remember they had sex earlier, and now Tiffany's pregnant with Chucky's baby, because they had sex. There's sex in this movie. There's a lot of cool sex in this movie. I mean, this movie kind of rocks in a terrible, terrible way. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you can do Child's Play 3, which is boring, or you can do Bride of Chucky, which is bad, but entertaining. I mean, this movie recognizes that it's about a killer doll. It recognizes and realizes that it's a stupid concept to begin with, so why not push it to the max? Well, maybe not the max. The next movie pushes it to the max, and you'll hear my thoughts on that, but this movie's just good fun. Also, the soundtrack to this movie rocks. Rob Zombie, Typo Negative, Kidney Thieves. It's just a bunch of shitty rock music from the 90s, and that's my jam. However, Jesse and Jade are kind of boring. Again, they aren't defined at all. It's just your bland, typical romance couple. I'm not a big fan of them. They're both fine actors, but the characters just aren't deep at all. And then for a cop to just show up and go, yeah, you guys are free to go. Like, no, man, so many people are dead. I like the romance road trip comedy thriller that is Bride of Chucky, but I also recognize that it's not a great movie. So as much as this pains me to say it's not better than Child's Play 2. It's not better than Child's Play 1, but it is better than Child's Play 3. So we're going to put Bride of Chucky right at number 3. And we're going to move on to the next film in the franchise, Seed of Chucky.
What the hell is going on in here?
She came on to me.
No wonder her career's in trouble.
Seed of Chucky.
That's my boy.
Oh my god, this movie. I'm so tired. Seed of Chucky was released in 2004. $12 million budget, $24.8 million box office. It's alright. Directed by Don Mancini, the creator of the franchise, making his directorial debut, which was, a bad idea, honestly. This movie f***ing sucks. This movie was so bad that Universal Pictures didn't want anything to do with it. They abandoned the project in the middle of production with the note, quote, "This is too gay." A little fun fact, Don Mancini, the creator of the Child's Play franchise, is a gay man. So I'm sure that fucking hurt a little bit to hear. Anyways, the movie resumed production when it was picked up by Focus Features and was ultimately released under Rogue Pictures. Yeah, so God, I wish this movie would have stayed on the chopping room floor. Cutting room floor. I'm so tired. Here's the synopsis for Seed of Chucky. Everyone's favorite killer doll returns as the Chucky legacy continues with an all-new family member. This time around, Chucky and his homicidal honey Tiffany are brought back to life by their orphan offspring Glenn. Then the outrageous action goes Hollywood as Chucky and his bride take Tinseltown by storm, unleashing a wild near rampage of murderous mayhem. Oh, Jesus Christ. This movie's bad. I mean, there's nothing else I can really say. Can we just move on to the next movie? No? Okay. So if the last movie was the franchise dipping its toes in the water of meta-horror humor, this movie just jumps headfirst in and it swims to the deep end, alright? This movie is at the bottom of the Mariana Trench of cringy horror movies. It's terrible. Alright, let's start off with some positives, okay? Number 1, Jennifer Tilly's back. And she's in person, not just the doll. So Jennifer Tilly plays herself in this movie in an actual pretty funny way. She makes fun of herself. She makes light of her dwindling career. She just takes everything on the chin. She's actually the highlight of this film. What else? What else? Got some very ahead of the time pro-trans messages in it. I guess that's pretty cool and progressive. So Chucky and Tiffany's son or daughter, I think that's why they say seed, because they don't really whatever, but Chucky and Tiffany's child is a gender fluid person who goes by Glenn or Glenda depending on how they are presenting. Glenn or Glenda being a reference to the Ed Wood movie from 1954. Do I have that in my notes? 1953. Fuck. And Billy Boyd voices Glenn or Glenda, and he's alright. He gives it his all. I like his little chipper British voice, but God, this movie sucks so bad. The only thing I can really say about Glenn is there's this one scene where he's running. Oh God, I shouldn't have opened that Dr. Pepper. The only thing I can really say about Glenn is that there's this one scene where he's running away from his previous owner to go and find his parents, and it's just, do I have to say anything? Just look at that. I really don't know what else I can say positively about this movie. I think it goes a little too far in the comedic direction for my liking. Don't get me wrong, I love a good comedy, but this is not a good comedy. I mean, I can't think of a single time that I genuinely laughed. No, I can't think of a single time that I genuinely laughed. There's a scene where they kill a Britney Spears lookalike, like Chucky runs her off the road, and he says, like, I think he says, "Oops, I did it again." I know this was 2004, but did people find that cool even then? John Waters is in the movie, and that's a positive. John Waters plays a paparazzi, and he's taking photos of Chucky masturbating in the window, and he's got some pretty funny line deliveries, so there's another positive, I guess.
A masturbating midget?
Get it, mini-me. Oh, sweet Jesus. God bless the little people.
On to the kills. Glenn kills a British family in his dream. We get to see some boobies there. That's pretty cool. But unfortunately, they are British boobies, so... Oh yeah, speaking of boobs, we get to see the Tiffany doll's boobs for a scene. And I almost turned the movie off right there. I legitimately had a moment where I turned and I looked outside and I said, "It's a beautiful day. I could go for a bike ride. I could take my dog on a walk." I looked at my computer. I said, "The Rivals 2 demo is out. I could be playing Rivals 2 right now." But nope. I'm sitting here watching this movie. Chucky and Tiffany decapitate a puppeteer played by Tony Gardner, the actual puppeteer for this movie. I mean, it's so meta, dude. It's so fucking meta. It's also meta and cool. The kill's fine. It's pretty gruesome. Jennifer Tilly comes in and plays with Tony Gardner's like decapitated head and like kisses it and stuff. And it's okay. It's fine. The Britney Spears lookalike gets run off the road and her car explodes. Britney Spears! Is that what the audience was supposed to do there? Britney Spears rocks. Come on now. John Waters gets his face melted, so he's like developing photos and this chemical spills and dumps on his face and it just melts half of his face. What the fuck are they using to develop photos? Is that hydrochloric acid? Redman! Oh yeah, Redman plays himself in this movie. Because remember, it's meta. And Redman in the movie is making a biblical rap film about the Virgin Mary, and Jennifer Tilly is trying to get the part, but Redman thinks that Jennifer Tilly is too slutty to be the Virgin Mary, and that's a running gag in this film. It's not just a running gag, that's like a foundation of the plot. So Redman gets his stomach cut by the doll Tiffany, and his intestines fall out, and it just looks so terrible. It looks like garden hoses just covered in ketchup. Jennifer Tilly's assistant does get set on fire, and then she falls down the stairs. And that kill's pretty cool. I'll give it that one. Jennifer's taxi driver takes a knife to the back. Tiffany takes an axe to the forehead. And then Chucky and Glenn get into a kung fu fight. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I forgot about this part. This part, I kind of like this part actually. So Glenn has a stamp on his wrist that says made in Japan. So technically, he's Japanese. And throughout the movie, he will speak Japanese. He will say like konnichiwa and arigato and stuff like that. And since he's Japanese, he knows kung fu. And that's how he defeats Chucky at the end of the movie. And I'm not gonna lie, that part is like one of the few humorous parts. It's so stupid. Whenever Glenn looks at his wrist that says made in Japan, it does like a wow, it does like a it does like a fucking very Japanese stereotypical sound effect. And I'm not gonna lie, that one made me laugh. Oh, and then Glenn dismembers Chucky with an axe, the same axe that Chucky used to kill Tiffany. But before Tiffany dies, she puts her soul into Jennifer Tilly's body, and then Jennifer Tilly has twins, a boy and a girl, and she puts Glenn's soul in the boy and the girl's bodies so that he can be both genders. And this movie fucking sucks. It's so bad. With that being said, though, I had a lot more to say about it than Child's Play 3. You know, it's one of those things where, like, I would rather take bad over boring. You know, Child's Play 3 just didn't feel like a movie. It just felt like noise. Like I'm just watching stuff happen. This felt more like a movie. I could see what they were going for. They just didn't really stick the landing. So, Child's Play 3 is staying at the bottom, but Seed of Chucky is just barely going right above it. Just right above it. Not much better, but at least it's something, you know? And now, on to the next film, Curse of Chucky. Two more movies left, and then I can finally go to sleep. After a nearly 9-year hiatus, Chucky returns in Curse of Chucky. Released straight to DVD in 2013, and once again directed by Don Mancini. Did he do any better than his last endeavor? Well, let's find out together. From the filmmakers that brought you Chucky comes the terrifying return of the pint-sized doll possessed by the spirit of a notorious serial killer. When a mysterious package arrives at the house of Nika Pierce, she doesn't give it much thought. However, after her mother's mysterious death, do they use mysterious twice, like right back to back? Oh, that's not good. However, after her mother's mysterious death, Nika begins to suspect that the talking red-haired doll her visiting niece has been playing with may be the key to the ensuing bloodshed and chaos. Now, this movie introduces some really fun new elements to the series. First of all, let's talk about Nika, played by Fiona Dourif, the daughter of Brad Dourif, the guy who voices Chucky. How cool is that? I wish I did cool things with my dad. Just like Jennifer Tilly in Bride of Chucky, Fiona Dourif is a much-needed breath of fresh air in this franchise. She really is amazing. I mean, this is a Nepo hire that I can absolutely get behind. She's awesome. And did I forget to mention that she's in a wheelchair? Talk about handicapped capable representation. No, but seriously, I love that aspect of this movie. With Chucky, there's always this argument of, he's just a doll, just kick him away, you know? There are so many scenes in this franchise where Chucky's just like barely hanging on to somebody on their back, and it's admittedly very stupid. But with Nika, her being handicapped, is handicap the proper term? But with Nika being in a wheelchair, she's already at a disadvantage, which I think adds a really cool element to this movie. There are a few moments, however, in this movie where Fiona Dourif is actually moving her legs when she's not supposed to, because, I mean, she's not actually handicapped. And one problem that I have is, just like the last two movies in the franchise, we do some serious retconning. So before Chucky died, he had this neighbor that he fell in love with, but unfortunately, she was married. So what did he do? Well, what any sensible man would do. He killed her husband and he kidnapped her. But somehow, while being held hostage, she calls the cops, and that's what leads to the chase at the very beginning of Child's Play 1, where Charles Lee Ray gets killed. And all that really means is that Chucky was cheating on Tiffany, which is probably the worst thing he's done in this franchise so far. I mean, you're really gonna let Jennifer Tilly go? So yeah, he tracks that woman down like 25 years later, however long it is, and it's Nika's mom. So he delivers himself to Nika's mom's house and kills her, and then the rest of the movie takes place the day after Nika's mom's been killed. It's just really confusing and stupid, honestly, but once you get past that, it's a pretty solid movie. I like it. Minus a few really bad flashback scenes. So throughout the movie, they'll do these flashbacks, and Brad Dourif is just like, he's just got like a black wig on, and he looks so stupid, and you just gotta look at him all decrepitly, be like, I'm still Brad Dourif. Yeah, I'm Brad Dourif. The wind blows too strong and he starts swaying and you're kind of worried he's gonna blow away. I love Brad Dourif, but he just shouldn't be appearing as a young man in these movies at this point. But whatever. It's bad. It's really funny. That's the point. Speaking of the legend himself, Brad Dourif is in full form here. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that this is Brad Dourif's favorite film of the franchise, and I gotta be honest, it's a good favorite to have. Chucky is great in this one. The animatronics are good, minus one scene where I don't know if it's like CG or what, but something just looks really off. But other than that, Chucky's great. He has some great line deliveries, good one-liners. It's great. Oh, and the setting. The movie takes place all in one night in the same house. And this house is just this giant old gothic home in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's horror movie 101. I love the setting in this movie, man. It's sick. Now, Don Mancini directed the last movie, and you've obviously heard my thoughts on that one, but this one is way better. I don't know what Don Mancini did in the 9 years between films, but he drastically improved as a director. Some of these shots, man, there's this one where Nika gets like pushed off the balcony of the upstairs and she just is gracefully falling through the air and falls on the ground. Oh my God, it's so well done. I have to give him props here. You know, most people would probably give up after something like Seed of Chucky. Thank God for Don Mancini and his amazing resolve to take it on the chin and get better and grow. I love the direction in this movie, man. So let's get into the kills. Right in the beginning, Nika's mom is killed off screen. We see it later on towards the end of the movie, but she gets stabbed in the belly with some scissors. Tough way to go out. The family priest is poisoned by Chucky, and that's another really good shot in this film. So Chucky puts rat poison in one of the bowls of chili, and then later that night at the dinner scene, there's this really good aerial view of the table spinning around, and it's like the cylinder of a revolver. It's like the dinner table is playing Russian roulette, and we're just waiting because we don't know which one is poisoned. It's so well done, man. So the priest gets poisoned and gets into a car accident later that night, gets decapitated. Really good kill, really good effect. The sexy nanny gets electrocuted, Nika's sister gets stabbed in the eye, Nika's brother-in-law gets his jaw like decapitated with an axe. I don't even know if I can play it. It's fucking brutal and it's awesome, and it's only in the unrated version. I think I should say that. I'm watching the unrated version of all these movies. But that kill is awesome. I watched a lot of the behind the scenes for these movies as I was taking notes and stuff, and to watch the level of detail that is being used in these practical effects, I mean, it's so amazing. I can't fluff this movie up enough. Do you call it? Isn't that when you jack off a porn star? So at the end of the movie, Chucky gets away with it, and I think that's another reason why I really like it. The cop shows up, Nika's the only one still alive, and he takes her in, and she gets put in a mental asylum. And that's how the plot ends. Like, that's it. So at the very end, Tiffany returns, and just like Bride of Chucky, she kills a cop and steals Chucky out of the evidence box. box and sends him off to his next victim, whoever that may be. It's a fun callback, good little fan service, and speaking of fan service, in a post-credit scene, we get to see the original Andy Barclay, all grown up, and face-to-face with Chucky one last time. So Chucky sends himself to Andy Barclay, and Andy Barclay shoots him in the face. And it's just a really cool, like, Andy's been preparing for this moment probably his whole life, and still never gets caught off guard. I love it. So here's the thing. This is probably the most fun that I've had with any of these movies so far. I mean, the direction, the writing, the kills, Chucky himself, everything here is just top-notch. I mean, this is the 6th film in the franchise, and it has no right to be as good as it is. Think of other horror franchises and think about entries 25 years apart. I mean, compare the original Friday the 13th to Freddy vs. Jason. The same amount of time has passed between those two movies as the original Child's Play and this movie. It just has no right to be as good as it is. Do I enjoy this one better than Child's Play 1? Yes, I do. Curse of Chucky at number 2, Child's Play 2 staying at number 1, and I think that's where we're gonna go from now on. But we have one final movie, the final movie of the night, Cult of Chucky. I don't have this one on DVD. I'm gonna have to find it on demand somewhere. Okay, thank God this is the final movie, because I've got to be at work at 5 a.m. Cult of Chucky, released in 2017, and once again directed by Don Mancini. A little story about this film. I remember being so excited when this movie came out. Matter of fact, I watched it with my girlfriend at the time, and she was not a big fan. She actually made fun of me when the movie was over for liking Chucky. She thought I was stupid and dumb. Well, guess which one of us is a fat single mother with 2 kids now? Not me. Confined to an asylum for the criminally insane for the past 4 years, Nika is wrongly convinced that she, not Chucky, murdered her entire family. But when her psychiatrist introduces a new group therapy tool, a good guy doll, a string of grisly deaths plague the asylum, and Nika starts to wonder if maybe she isn't crazy after all. Andy, Chucky's now grown-up nemesis from the original Child's Play, races to Nika's aid. But to save her, he'll have to get past Tiffany, Chucky's long-ago bride, who will do anything, no matter how deadly or depraved, to help her beloved doll. Who the f writes these? The back of these DVDs are like a damn novel, man. Cult of Chucky continues from where we left off in Curse of Chucky. Nika has been blamed for all the deaths in the previous film and is being held in a mental asylum. It took this franchise 6 films to get to a mental asylum, and if that isn't the definition of patience, I don't know what is. Speaking of mental asylum, I think that's a good place to start off. The setting. I mean, it's a mental institution. How much scarier could you get? But it's not just any mental institution. Everything in this place is white. They must have saved a ton on paint. Throughout the movie, you get assaulted by this white color everywhere you look, and it really gives across the feeling like you're going crazy while watching the movie. Then some of the contrast in colors, like there's this one scene where Chucky's walking down a hallway and everything around him is white, but then you just get this little orange bastard right in the middle. Again, props to Don Mancini. The direction is amazing. Speaking of Don Mancini's direction, I want to talk about one of the kills. So it's kind of like the death in Bride of Chucky of the couple that stole Jesse and Jade's wallet, where all the glass comes down. You remember that one? So this chick is strapped down to a hospital bed, and right above her is just this giant glass window. The snow is falling down on it, and it's just everything's white. Chucky gets into the room and breaks the glass ceiling, causing shards to fall everywhere, decapitating the woman. Blood goes everywhere. Again, amazing contrast in colors. This movie's just shot so fucking well, man. I've got to give Don Mancini all the credit in the world. Somehow this guy went from making a turd sandwich to becoming a gourmet chef. Also, Brad Dourif is in top form in this movie, as is the usual. So Brad Dourif was in a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. Phenomenal movie. If you've never seen it, stop this video right now and go watch it. It's way more important than whatever the f I'm talking about. So if you've never seen that movie, it's set in a mental asylum, and Brad Dourif actually makes a lot of funny, neat little tip of the cap moments. This movie brings back some of the meta humor that was lost in Curse of Chucky. Curse of Chucky went right back to being just trying to be scary, and I love it, but this allows Chucky to be funny again. So the big change in this movie is that there isn't just one Chucky. Chucky has found a voodoo spell that allows him to split his soul into multiple different vessels, and I love that. And this is the first time that we get to see the original Andy Barclay as an adult. minus the post-credit scene from the last film. So Andy Barclay lives in a cabin in the middle of nowhere now, and he still has the original Chucky head from the last movie. So Andy cut off his fucking head and has just got it sitting on this piece of wood, and he just tortures it all day. I mean, that's fucking sick. Andy somehow finds out that Chucky has been transferring his soul into different vessels, so he leaves and goes to the asylum where Nika's being held to help her. And that's really the only plot that you need to know about this movie. It's a Chucky movie. It's not complicated, and that's what I want. Just let the doll do stuff. Now onto the kills. Chucky slits one of the patient's wrists, and oh yeah, that's such a good moment. Hold on. Nika tries to unalive herself, but as she's fading away, Chucky sneaks into her room and stitches her back together. And then she wakes up the next morning and he is scribbled "not yet" in her blood, and that is terrifying. It's terrifying that you can't escape, no matter what. Like, that's a last resort in the most blunt way possible, and you can't even do that. So there's the one I mentioned earlier about the falling glass from the ceiling, which again is brutal. There's another woman who thinks that Chucky is her baby, and she allows him to reach into her mouth and pull out a piece of her spine through her mouth. Why did it take this series so long to get some really fucking brutal kills, man? One of the nurses gets ganged up on by all of the Chuckies. He's getting stabbed and cut and screwdriver. Really good. The doctor. Oh, the doctor. So Nika has this psychiatrist or psychologist. One of the fake doctors, you know? She's got this doctor, and throughout the movie, he keeps sedating her and taking advantage of her. It's really fucking creepy, and it's really out of nowhere. Like, the doctor seems like just a completely normal character throughout the movie, and then all of a sudden, nope, bam, he's a sex pest. So the doctor is obsessed with Nika, and specifically obsessed with her feet. There's this one scene where the doctor sedates Nika, and he starts kissing her toes. And all I've got to say is, if you're gonna kiss a woman's toes, it might as well be a handicapped woman's, right? I mean, those have got to be the cleanest puppies in the world. They've never even touched the ground. So Chucky possesses Nika, and she can walk again. That's the cure to paraplegia. We found it, guys. So Chucky possesses Nika, and she starts stomping the doctor's face in, and it is a really good effect, but I don't think that's what he meant by "step on me, mommy." Oh, and the other patient, Malcolm. There's this character with multiple personality disorder, and everyone calls him Multiple Malcolm, and it's just good to know that bullying exists even in mental asylums. So Malcolm gets his head drilled from the back with like some kind of drill, like some kind of medical tool. I don't know why the f they have that just lying around in a mental institution, but hey, it's again a really brutal kill. So the movie ends with Chucky possessing Nika, then locking Andy in the asylum and blaming all the deaths on him. Then Nika leaves with Tiffany, and we get a sick lesbian kiss. We've waited 7 movies to see these two kiss, and let me tell you, it was quite worth the wait. But this whole ending is nothing more than a lead-in to the Chucky television show that was made a few years ago for the Sci-Fi Network, and I haven't really seen it. I tried to start it, don't have the time. Sorry, don't have the time. And that is the biggest complaint I have of this movie. It just ends with Chucky taking over Nika's body and running away with Tiffany. Now, if you watch the TV show, then you get some closure, but for a movie, and as of right now, the final movie in the franchise, this just lacks a final oomph, you know? I wanted a definitive finish, and we don't get that here. This really feels like more of a teaser for the TV show. Overall, though, I liked this movie, actually. I liked it a lot. The idea of multiple Chuckies is a pretty cool concept, and this movie executes it perfectly. The kills are great, the direction is great. I mean, these movies back-to-back have no right to be as good as they are. I personally prefer Curse over Cult. I'm gonna put Cult of Chucky at number 3. I think that's where it fits. And now, let's give our final review on the series as a whole. Oh my god, it has been a long fucking day. 624 minutes of non-stop Chucky action. Almost 10.5 hours. I can't believe I survived. At certain points, I didn't think I was going to, but my mama didn't raise no quitter. She raised a homosexual. Now let's go over the complete rankings. Right at the bottom is Child's Play 3. Now listen, this movie is just boring as hell. Everything about this movie is a snooze fest. The characters boring, the kills boring, the settings boring, everything boring. Like I said, I want to give the movie the benefit of the doubt with its short production time, but that doesn't excuse this. Just take the time to make a worthy movie. Like, was this really such a cash grab that you had to rush it out? I'm sorry, this movie's bad. Right at the bottom. Right above it is Seed of Chucky. Now this movie also sucks, don't get me wrong, but at least it's not boring. Boring is like the cardinal sin of filmmaking, in my opinion. A movie can be bad, but still watchable, and that's what this is. I'd never want to watch it again. If I'd rewatch the series, I'd probably skip over it, but it's not boring. Some of the kills were okay. Redman was alright. Jennifer Tilly is great as usual. Brad Dourif is a saint in all of these movies. But other than that, this movie is just a complete misstep. In my opinion, avoid it at all costs. Above that, at number 5, is Bride of Chucky. Now, in my heart, this movie might be at the top. It's such a product of its era. I mean, bad rock music, bad meta humor. It's so bad, but I love it. The plot is kind of all over the place and not as concise as I would like. A very fun movie that has a special place in my heart, but just isn't up to par with the top of the list. And at number 4 comes the original Child's Play. I don't want to hate on it too much because it is the original, but I just don't love it as much as the other films. However, if you separate this movie from the rest of the franchise, if you just want a good solid horror movie to watch by itself without having to worry about sequels, I'd recommend this one more than any of the others. This movie on its own rocks. At number 3, taking the bronze spot on the podium, is Cult of Chucky. This movie, again, I've said this a million times, has no right to be as good as it actually is. I can't emphasize enough that this is the 7th movie in the series, and it went straight to DVD, and it's this high up on my list. It's awesome, man. I really enjoy it, but not as much as our top 2. At number 2, I'm having a hard time deciding which one I enjoy more, and I think I'm about to make an executive decision. You know what? I'm gonna do it. At number 2 is Child's Play 2. Now listen, this movie is a classic, but it just rehashes so much from the first movie while also feeling so disconnected from the first movie. It's still a very fun horror movie. I mean, number 2's nothing to sneeze at, but there's another movie that I enjoyed a lot more. The number 1 movie, in my opinion, taking the gold spot at the podium, is Curse of Chucky. I mean, what else can I say? This movie ties everything together from the previous movies in a nice, tight little bow. Chucky is scary again. Nika is probably the most interesting character the series has had since probably the original Andy Barclay in the first movie. The house. Oh, the house. It's awesome. The directing is awesome. The kills are great. I love this movie, man. I love it. And I can't believe it. We finally made it to the end. That's it for my final rankings. Let me know what you think below, but please don't be too mean. I'm a little sensitive. Don't forget to like and subscribe since you stuck around for so long. Trust me, it's worth it. I post videos sometimes. And with all that being said, I'm finally going to bed. It's been a long night. Good night. I love you. Say it back. I love you. I love you. Please say it back. I love you.